Does anyone else feel like their school experience has caused them further hypervigilance? Like, I don't know if I can say that it was the direct cause of my hypervigilance, like many things were the cause of it, but I definitely am noticing patterns and recalling patterns at which my teachers and, like, I don't know, the pressure and all of that definitely affected my hypervigilance. Like, I was that kid in school that took everything so, I don't want to say seriously, but I took everything to heart. Like, and I think it was both counterintuitive to my grades. Like, it was like counter to my grades, I should say, because I was terrible in school and rarely showed up. Also because of my hypervigilance, my adrenal fatigue, but I also, I think, overcompensated by being as good as I possibly could be. Like, if my teacher told me something, yes, ma'am, yes, absolutely, right away, I am doing it. Like, I wanted to be seen as such a good kid in their eyes, because I could not imagine a worse fate than also being terrible with my grades and my attendance, but then also being just a bad kid. I just couldn't imagine anything worse. So I listened to every word that they said and tried my very best to obey it. And the weight of not accomplishing work weighed on me, or not having good grades weighed on me deeply. But then we'd have classes, outside of like actual schoolwork. We would have classes or moments where they would try to teach us moral lessons, and they would tell us these things that I'm looking back and I'm like, this is such BS. Like, well, it's one of those things where, like, back then I used to think it was BS, but I'm like, wow, you gotta play the game of the world, and I'm looking back and I'm like, man, like, how toxic is this type of mindset? Like, everybody knows the what is it, the hamburger or the sandwich, the compliment sandwich. That's what it is. I was thinking of hamburger, hot dog, the way you fold your paper, different thing. But the compliment sandwich that everybody knows, where it's essentially is, you have to come up with some BS compliment because your intention is to give somebody a criticism, but you can't just give them a criticism. You have to give them, you have to pull out from your behind some sort of fake compliment. I mean, and to give them credit, a compliment, it doesn't have to be fake. I mean, maybe you genuinely think that, but it's kind of funny because you wouldn't have ordinarily complimented them on that unless you had this ulterior motive to whatever. You get my point here. You give them a compliment, you give them the criticism that you've been wanting to give them the entire time, and then you end it with another compliment. And I think that is just one way that's amplified my hypervigilance in life. And it's like, now I don't want to say now, because of that, I should say, throughout my life, I've always had it ingrained in my head. Like, I cannot just talk to somebody. I can't just talk to somebody or tell somebody something without first coddling the problem. Like, somebody might be straight up abusing me. Can I say that on here? Somebody might straight up be harming me. And I can't, that's really essentially what it taught me, is I can't go up to that person and say, that isn't right. I have to say, that isn't right. Well, no, I can't even say that first. I have to go, look, I understand why you do XYZ, and actually I admire you for doing XYZ, but this is my problem. But yet again, I also am very thankful. No, like, that is such BS. Like, if somebody's harming you, if somebody's hurting you, and it's like, I'm now learning this at 25, like, learning how to undo these deeply ingrained psychological manipulation tactics. And, in some degree, sure, I guess you go to the workplace and this is how you play their game. You go to the corporate world and this is how you play that game. If you do not play that game, you're not going to make it in the corporate world. I get that. You're not going to make the big bucks at the big chain. If you want to be the cog in the machine, you've got to do it. But I just think it is one of the most disgusting things to teach a child. I really think it's vile what we teach them. And another thing that connects to another thing that they would teach us is that you can never just tell somebody that they're doing something wrong. You have to give them a solution. This angers me so much, and it's only something that I've recently come to think about. That has been so ingrained in me my entire life that it is insane. I've had actual sociopaths in my life who would hurt me, who would harm me, who would do great disservices to me. In almost every aspect, every word that came from their mouth, to a degree, was out of unrighteousness, out of untruth. Okay? And that's not, I love these people greatly, but I mean, when somebody has a wicked spirit, I'm sorry, that everything that comes forth from them is wickedness. And I was taught my entire childhood from teachers and family members, from any adult, really, but school just really ingrained this further into me. This echo all over me is from adults is, this is how you act. Okay? Somebody could be literally slapping you around. Okay. How you need to approach them is you have something that you have a criticism for them, or you have a problem, or something. Now, what you have to do is go up to them and give them solutions on how they can fix their problem. You can't just go up to somebody with a problem. Why not? Why can't we go up to somebody with a problem and be that, and that's the extent of it, and say, this is an injustice, this is wrong, you deal with it. Sorry, I'm heated about this. I am heated about it because I think it's sick. And I'm only now, at 25 years old, thinking about this stuff because I'm freed from those people. If I had not been freed from those people, you better believe I would be 40, 50, 60, I'd be 70 years old and I'd be still taking it to this day. I would be. Because that's what I was taught. So I thank the Lord that they're not in my life. But I say that to talk about this because I think it's important, and I don't know that a lot of other people, I mean, if I'm dealing with this, if I'm struggling with this, and I'm just coming up with this stuff, I'm sure a lot of other people are too. I'm sure a lot of other people are continuing these cycles that they've been taught since school, since before school. And maybe my passion can kind of connect with somebody else's passion. I don't know. But I think it's sick. I think it's absolutely sick. And I'm still getting used to what that feels like. Being able to talk to somebody, or I don't want to say talk to somebody, but being able to go to somebody and say, this is the issue. You deal with it. It ain't my problem. I don't always need to come up with the solution. You know? I think we're also taught that a lot of the times in I mean, I'm not married, but when you hear people's stories about marriage counseling or counseling in general, couples counseling, sometimes your partner's just an asshole. You know? Sometimes your partner's just manipulative. And it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Maybe, the aspects that do have to do with you is, well, why did you choose that partner? And maybe that's some deep diving that you have to do, or what drew you to those aspects of that partner? Or what is your trauma reaction when they are manipulative, when they are abusive, when they're harmful to you? And maybe that's something that you have to deep dive, but that has nothing to do with you having to compromise with your partner. Not everything is a compromise. Ooh, and compromising. Ooh, that is keyword, buzzword for teachers and for parents out there. Compromise. Compromise with your brother and sister. No. Little Timmy took Sarah's toy. I'm sorry, but Timmy's got to give it back. It isn't no compromise. Sometimes sharing, sure, that's pleasant and nice, and that's great. But to what extent? If that's your child's toy, that's your child's toy. Like, why should your child have to share their toy, their belonging with their sibling? Why should it be mandatory? And if we're going to teach sharing, then we should teach it from the heart of wanting to share. Not that you have to share, that you should want to share. And why should we want to share? Well, because God believes in sharing with other people and giving to people who are less fortunate, giving to people who don't have. I mean, everything comes down to, do you believe in God or do you not? So, I mean, that's a different topic altogether. But the whole sharing and compromise. You get the toy Monday through Saturday. Sarah gets the toy. It's just like, why? It was my toy. It was given to me. It was a prize to me. If it's mine, truly, if you've given this to me as a gift, I should not have to lend it to other people. Like, let's start thinking psychologically, guys. As if I'm talking to somebody else who doesn't relate to this. If you don't relate, you probably already have clicked off. But like, for real, like, what was I going to say? I don't even remember what I was going to say. Oh, like, I think we should start, as a society, collectively, we should start thinking more about how these psychologically affect somebody as they age. Because you might think that it's like, oh, well, it's my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old sharing a toy or battling over a toy, but what is that in 16 years? What is sharing in 16 years? And how does that affect us and how we view ourselves and what we own and our ownership over ourselves and our own bodies and our own I should not have to take a piece of myself and give it to somebody else. That's another thing that just reminded me of. Do you guys remember Rainbow Fish? It's such a pretty book, isn't it? It's lovely. The glittery little scales and the ocean. Beautiful book. The moral lesson there is disgusting. I don't know if y'all remember this. Props to my mom, because I do remember her saying this as a kid, but I just came across a TikTok the other day that was talking about this, how the moral of the story in Rainbow Fish was, at the end of the day, so Rainbow Fish was this fish who had beautiful scales, unlike any other creature. Everybody wanted some of his scales, and little by little, Rainbow Fish gave a part of his scale to every single fish in the sea, even though previously they were not so nice to him. All the other fish were, I can't remember, they were mean to him, and then they liked his scales. I don't know, something like that. And then he gave a piece of his scale to every single person until he had one and everybody had one. And everybody was happy and they all liked him. It's disgusting. Now Rainbow Fish is not Rainbow Fish anymore. Now Rainbow Fish is any other fake ass, like, fish, Like, don't take a part of you that is special and give it to somebody else. That's disgusting. What kind of moral is that in a children's book? But that's like the collectivism. Oh boy, did not expect to get into collectivism right now. But the compromising, the collectivism, all of that, I think it's BS, and it's definitely affected my hypervigilance that I'm having to work out to this day. And I'm sure many other people are experiencing the same thing, unknowingly even. I might go on a little bit of a different tangent now, but it's all going to come together. I mean, because it's all a big conversation, you know? My other gripe. I have many gripes with school. I'm anti-school. Sorry. My other gripe with school is also how teachers teach students, or they treat students that they are less than. I don't know how it is in other countries, but over here in America, you're a second-class citizen if you're in school. Okay? Point blank, period. That's how it is. I mean, you go to college and it's a little bit different, and suddenly you're a human being. But you're 18 in high school, an adult supposedly. It's just wild, and they treat you like you are less than, and I find it absolutely, all of this is so disgusting to me, like beyond like psychologically messed up. Other people don't seem to find this as gross as I do, because they also, a lot of parents out here love parents. I find how every single individual parent raises their child to be so interesting and beautiful, but I also know that most parents also teach their children or treat their children like they are second-class citizens. So, it makes sense why, as a culture, we don't find a problem with this. But in my experience, like I said before, I follow every rule to a T. And honestly, when I was around teachers as well, I had to be on my best behavior. My hypervigilance at school was to a 10. Like, yes, ma'am, right away, ma'am. This is great. Like, put on a smile. Like, don't talk to my friends because I'm going to get in trouble and it's going to affect the whole class. Yes. She said quiet coyotes. Okay, we're all quiet now. Like, my teachers never did that. That's a new thing for the young kids. But you know what I mean? Like, they would be like, what did I say? Everybody be quiet. And I'm like, I made sure to be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm silent. She can't look at me, you know? And yet they still I was no different. I'm just a kid. They would still treat me like I was like I was a problem. And I'm not saying that they should like look at every individual student when it's so loud in the classroom, like look at every single individual student in the eyes and be like, this person's good, this person's bad. Like, I don't know. It's not my point here. My point here is, I don't know. Does that make sense? My point here, being that there would be moments where I'm talking to them and it's like, I'm a human being, or teachers would sometimes just have a bug up their butt where they just wanted to put you in your place, you know? And it's like, I'm sorry, Susan, I can only imagine, and this isn't me trying to be snarky, because I really was like, I can tell how your home life is, okay? I can tell that you probably are fed up with children because you just had a morning with your own child where you felt the need to reprimand him or her, but you don't need to be reflecting that on me, because these things are long lasting. I know you think it's a blip in time, but for me, it's going to be an everyday reminder until I'm 35. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just, you know, Like, here's an example, and I think about this every once in a while, especially when my mom was there. I mean, I have such a close relationship to my mom, always have. Adults from everywhere would see us all together and be like, wow, I admire your relationship with your mom. I didn't go through the snarky teenage phase, okay? Wasn't a thing for me. I'm just in a bad mood today. I'm sassy. I am coming after people. I am sorry. This is as though I'm like pissed today when this happened, like in 5th grade, in 2nd grade. I don't know. Sorry. But like one time in particular that I remember, and things like this has happened before in my life. I'm just like, what is your deal? Where, okay, especially around teachers, especially around adults, I wanted to make sure that adults never thought that I was a bratty kid, because to me, I'm like, I'm not going to be another number. I'm not going to be another person in the, like another kid in the sea where they can just like go home that day and be like, kids these days, I'm not going to be that, okay? I'm not. So when I would be with my mom in school, like in the office, first day of school, whenever my mom would be there, I made sure to like be myself, but I would also like, my hypervigilance would be on a 10. Let's put it that way. So I'd be like, oh, of course, right. Yeah. Oh, you know, like just very like, right, like, I have a good relationship with my mom. You guys can see that. I'm a good kid. I'm not here to cause problems. Like, my mom and I, we're close. Like, I'm not going to be here, like, being rude to her, right? It's first day of school. I'm in the office. And or I should probably start before that. Like, okay, it's first day of school. I'm, like, getting ready. I remember passively telling my mom, like, okay, because my hands were full of stuff. And I think I had one folder that I left on the counter. I think as my mom was getting ready, I passively said to her, hey, would you mind grabbing that for me? And I think I heard her say yeah. Pretty sure I heard her say yeah. It's hard because I can't like go back into my memory bank. I don't know. I think I heard her say yeah. And that's why I was like, okay, off I go. This is another hypervigilance thing of me, is when people don't answer me, I repeat the question because it's just a trauma response for me. Another confirmation that I'm pretty sure my mom said yes, that she was going to grab that folder for me. Whatever. It doesn't matter. We go out the door, we're heading to school, we go to school, we're in the office. The office lady is like, oh, okay, do you have this? Yes. Do you have this? Do you have this? Yes. Do you have this? No. Oh, Mom, I told you to get that. And I know I didn't say it snarky because I'm on, like I said, on a 10 in the office. And I just remember my mom being like, oh, I don't remember that. And the office lady literally turned to me and she was like, this is your stuff. It is your responsibility to bring it to school. Excuse me? I'm 13, okay? Or maybe I was 12, 13, something like that. You can't tell me, Miss Ma'am. I did not say that to her. I was like, oh, right, yeah, you're right, of course. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. I even turned to my mom. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way. And I think my mom was like, yeah, it's okay. And like, the lady was just like, or like, I think the lady, even before I could say anything, was like, apologize to your mom. I'm like, oh, yes, oh, like, I'm sorry. Okay. Like, chillax. You know what I mean? Because you cannot tell me that, like, you are having the most important day of your life. It's a meeting. And if you do not make this meeting, you're in trouble. Okay? You're written up. I don't know. You tell your husband quickly, passively, can you grab this for me? He forgets. Could you imagine if somebody turned to you, your coworker or your boss turned to you and said, it is your job to, like, I know that, like, your husband probably wouldn't be in the room, but, like, I'm just saying, like, You see what I'm saying? You would be upset. You would be upset. Like later on, you'd be like, "Oh, I told you to get that. Oh, man." In fact, I don't think you'd be that kind. As if I'm talking to the lady right now. Lady, if you're watching this, doubt it. Like, I know that you wouldn't be so kind. You'd be like, I told you to get that. Now I'm screwed. Like, and it's like, I'm 13. I'm far kinder to my mom than most 13-year-olds that I've even met. And I told her to pick something up for me, and I was like, what the heck? Because I know most adults aren't even that kind. Most adults aren't even that kind. To their husband, to their children, to their best friend. I don't care. Most adults aren't that kind. Most adults have these moments where they're like, man, I told somebody to do this thing for me and they didn't do that thing. That really sucks. It's the first day of school, very stressful. You have no idea the pit in my stomach that I've had and the lack of sleep that I've had, lady. Like, good Lord. And the thing is like, I think about that every once in a while. And oh my gosh, like, they treat us like we're second-class citizens. The audacity of somebody, any human being, to tell another human being how to act. I could see if I was like outright being abusive to my mother. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? I don't know. If I was downright being horrible, like abusive to my mom in a way that any other human, like, obviously, like, if you see abuse, call out abuse. But why is it different for children? Why do we feel that it's okay for children to be yelled at, to be talked down to, when we do the same things every single day? You know what I mean? I think it's so gross. It's so gross. And I think about that every once in a while. It's one of those like looping things that plays when you are trying to fall asleep at night. But there's a lot of other ones I can't think of right now. But there's been a lot of other moments like that too, where maybe I haven't even done anything wrong, but a teacher has turned to me and been like, you can't do that. What do you think you're doing? When I've done something completely innocent of heart. And it's like some people would say, like, let it go. Why are you still holding on to this? Wasn't that like a long time ago? And it's like, look, these things affect everybody. I don't know. These type of things affect everybody in some way. And even worse, the people who have hypervigilance like me and like many other children.